Bringing in a guy named Christos to a team with a well-known Bible Brothers group? I see what you're doing, Arteta. Christos Tzolis, new Arsenal signing from Club Brugge. I think a lot of people, including me, have mixed feelings about this signing for various reasons. So I want to be open and speak about those concerns and see what we can actually understand from this signing. So one of the main concerns is that he comes from a weak league in the Belgium league. So as we see here in the UEFA rankings, the coefficients for each league, we have the English Premier League here at the top. The Belgium league is at 7th spot, behind the Portuguese league and these other various leagues, which speaks volumes about the quality of the league itself and how maybe the exact players and the competition isn't as good as the other leagues. So instead of looking at the league, let's just see how Club Brugge lines up to other teams in the, let's say, European scene. Looking at a general measurement of the quality of each team, we have Club Brugge at 19th, which finds itself pretty high in this ranking, right? So it's not a team that has exactly no quality and is not decent whatsoever. They had a decent finish in the Champions League, while in the Champions League facing teams like Monaco, Atalanta, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Sporting, Arsenal, Marseille, and Atletico Madrid, which definitely are some really difficult fixtures to have in the Champions League when you're a club like Club Brugge, which naturally isn't the strongest team. However, despite the Belgian league not being any good, his raw stats speak for themselves. 17 goals, 23 assists, while also being the player of the year in the Belgian league. So whatever you think, this guy is a quality player, at least at this level, right? Which, will it transfer to the Prem? Who knows? Maybe not in this aspect, but definitely there's something there. While looking also at his career, you can see that he played some games in the Premier League at Norwich City, which did not really go quite well for him. This was really early in his career. He was 19 when he moved from PAOK in the Greek league to England, playing at Norwich. I wouldn't really take much stock into this, as when you're a young player, you're still very raw. You still have a lot of things to learn, and especially this kind of jump at this level requires a lot, which for me personally, this isn't a deal breaker. It's just something to note that he did have like an earlier stint in the Premier League, which didn't go his way, let's say, necessarily. The other thing that I think is important to mention is the eye test, because regardless of what you think, based on statistics, you always watch the player and you get your feelings based on how he performs and like how he is able to maneuver with or without the ball. And for me personally, he does not pass my eye test. He looks kind of clunky, kind of like a Gyökeres, like he's almost weighed down while he's running, and some of his movements, especially when cutting in, look a little bit robotic sometimes, but that's just the feeling that I get. He's not as silky as maybe some other wingers, for example, like a Mo Salah, which cuts in with ease, or like a Lamine Yamal. However, that's just a personal thing that I noticed. This isn't always a requirement to be a top player, but it's just one thing that it's kind of evident when you do watch him. Now, another major factor is him being the replacement for Trossard, which, in terms of him playing the same position and offering the same type of qualities, I guess you can kind of say that. However, Trossard and him have a lot of different things about their play styles. For example, I found this radar graph on Reddit, which shows different statistics in the Champions League for both of these players. You can see here Trossard in purple is basically all contained by the output of Tzolis. Some of these I don't really see how he has a lot better, like let's say quality than Trossard, like final product or his total value added, or the expectation of total value added, which this seems kind of skewed, especially when looking at him compared to Martinelli, which makes Martinelli look like one of the best wingers in the world. However, what I wanted to see more of was the shot output and the types of actions that he creates while being on the wing. For example, when looking at Trossard in the Champions League, which I'm going to use the Champions League as a base here, since both of them played in the Champions League and the quality is, let's say, a bit more similar than between the leagues. As you can see here, most of Trossard's actions are circled around here, right? When he gets the ball on the wing, he usually likes to go down the line, and whether he cuts back or usually either shoots or crosses from here, a lot of his actions go down the line and then back to the middle here. While Tzolis, on the other hand, when looking at the same competition in the Champions League, when going down the line, he cuts into the middle of the box and either shoots or he likes these crosses to the back post where sometimes runners can be found in some of these games. However, a lot of these actions you see, even like shots out here, usually he forces the issue from this side of the box, while Trossard, a completely different play style, goes to the line and then makes his passes, his shots from closer inside the area, which is a fundamental difference already between these two players. And you can see this difference in the goal right here against Burnley in the last Premier League season. This is just an example of like what I'm talking about here. So as you can see here, Trossard gets the ball in this type of area, while Tzolis, for example, would be going maybe more inside, finding either a pass here, a cross to the back post. Trossard, based on his play style, goes to the line and finds a pass across, which probably wouldn't be what Tzolis would be doing. These are just the differences I was speaking about in terms of these players. Now let's look at Tzolis. You don't see the full thing. However, he gets the ball as well in this area, right? And while Trossard would be going down the line here and then finding either a cross to the middle or maybe across the back post, or maybe just going down the line, cutting it back and then looking for more room, Tzolis just whacks it back post, which is a type of goal that he scores quite often. As if you watch any of his highlights, it's a lot of these shots cut inside the middle and a lot of these shots to the far post, curling shots inside the post, which he definitely has a skill like that in his locker. He'll be looking for a lot of those opportunities. Whether in the Premier League he'll be cut off from that space, could be more difficult for him to find his feet in terms of shooting goals. However, we'll just have to see with time like what he's able to do in terms of in the Premier League competitions. It's also pretty important to see the games that he played and how he played against that Champions League competition. Performances are, you know, so-so, right? Which is expect. Whether he is doing his typical go down the line, trying to cut in, he doesn't find that same type of space. In the Bayern Munich game, for example, based on the highlights that I've seen, he was outmuscled a lot. He was occasionally losing possession while trying to do those types of plays that he usually goes for in the Belgium league. He obviously found it a lot more difficult, right, against those better teams, which could be a symptom of not being able to adapt to that top level and having, you know, more difficulties against better teams, which is what he's gonna be faced with in the Premier League. So that's a little bit of a red flag that you can kind of attribute to this signing. However, even when looking at teams like Atalanta, right, which is, I guess, a step down from that top level of the prior teams that we were talking about, he still performs decently well, finding his space on the wing, as well as he has a lot of touches centrally, popping up in the middle of the field, almost as like a cam, and spreading balls left, right, which could be also a decent thing to see from him in the Premier League, as well as his set piece taking. He's a pretty decent corner taker, as well as a crosser of the ball, whether from open play on the wing or just in general from a dead ball, which obviously is, for Arsenal, creme de la creme. This is perfect. However, it doesn't blow you away necessarily based on watching those videos and those highlights of his touches during those games, which leaves a little bit to be desired for sure. And yeah, based on what I've read, what I've looked at, and what I've seen from him, for me, it's a little bit of a 50-50. I'm not 100% confident he's going to hit the ground running and just be top player. It's more of like an option of him being a squad player, which I think that's what the recruiting team was going for regardless. However, it's definitely important to sign another winger that can be ahead of this guy and provide, you know, big numbers, whether that's Vinicius Jr., whether that's Barcola, whether that's whoever else Arsenal are looking at, because I don't think Tzolis is going to be the player that will help take Arsenal to another Premier League title or to push them far into these Champions League competitions. So definitely he's going to be a good squad player, somebody that's somewhat young and can incorporate some things into his game and then be a solid option for Arsenal in the future. But what do you think about this signing, and do you think he's going to be a top player at Arsenal? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you next time.